and peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Here we go. These are the fruit of the Spirit. Walk in the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit. Oh, here we go.
Today we're going to tackle another flavor. We're calling this Fruit of the Spirit, one fruit, many flavors. It's not the fruits of the Spirit, it's the fruit of the Spirit. But this fruit pops up in many different ways. And we've talked about the flavor of love and how the flavor of love is the first flavor and the greatest flavor that there is. And without the flavor of love, it's hard to get out any of these other flavors. And then last week we talked about the flavor of joy and peace, and how joy and peace kind of go together in the scriptures. And today we're going to look at another fruit, another flavor of the fruit of the Spirit. And I'm going to give you a hint of what we're talking about. Not many in the first service remembered this, but growing up, I remember this commercial. It's amazing the power of marketing in commercials. But growing up in the 80s, when I grew up and watching television, we had this commercial that came on TV. And I'm going to give you the tagline of the commercial. And I want you to tell me what product it was to see if y'all remember this. All right, here's the tagline of the commercial. The best things come to those who wait. Who remembers that? Shout it out. What product am I talking about? The best things come to those who wait. Who said ketchup? Ketchup. Heinz ketchup. Y'all didn't watch TV in the 80s, did you? Obviously, I was the only one that watched TV in the 80s. I remember there were several commercials. You know the Heinz ketchup had a problem. You couldn't get the ketchup out of the bottle. You could turn it up and no ketchup would come out. And you'd have to shake it, and then, you'd have to hit it on the side, and a whole blob, the whole thing would come out at the time when you're doing that. It was a mess, Heinz ketchup. And I remember there were these commercials, and they were very clever commercials. Go on YouTube and look those up this afternoon. But Heinz had the problem. Their ketchup, you couldn't get out of the bottle. It was so slow. I guess so instead of fixing the bottle, they just come up with a crazy good tagline. The best things come to those who wait. That even if it takes, 10 minutes to get the ketchup out of the bottle, our ketchup is so good, it is worth the wait. Because it took some patience to get Heinz ketchup out of the bottle. So the flavor of the day today is the flavor of patience. Somebody shout patience. Patience. Now, I don't know how many of y'all are experts on patience, but probably we all struggle with a little bit of patience in this life. And so today our flavor is going to be patience. And of course, in our fast-paced world, we need to have some patience in the world that we are living in. If you're driving in traffic, if you're trying to order food at a restaurant, or you're waiting at the doctor's, oftentimes it takes patience in dealing with the things of life. But patience in the Bible has more to do than just standing in a line or, sitting in a doctor's office or things like that. Patience encompasses several different areas of our life that we face. And so we're going to talk about these areas of patience today in our life. When you look at the words that the Bible uses for patience, one of the words used, it means to bear up under a burden, like you've been burdened heavily with some situations in life and some circumstances, and you're carrying this heavy burden in which you need to push through and endure through. Another way patience is used is in terms of long suffering and in terms of being patient with people even when they aren't so patient with you. And it's dealing with people and not seeking revenge, not being easily angered, and it's holding your temper. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is we're going to look at these different kinds of patience that we find in the Bible. So let's jump into our theme verse that we started with the first week. Our theme verse is from Galatians chapter 5, and it just lists the fruits of the Spirit. So here's the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance or patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And that's the fruit of the Spirit. One fruit, 9 flavors of the fruit of the Spirit. And our flavor of the day is the flavor of patience. So 3 key areas that I want to give us today about patience. Here's the first key area. The first key area, and I want to kind of play off that word waiting. The best things in life are worth waiting for. Good things come to those who wait. Someone asked the question, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for in life? Well, here's the first area, is that waiting is a way of life. In this flavor of patience, we see waiting as a way of life. Waiting in a general viewpoint. Someone once said, the key to everything is patience. He says, you get the chicken by hatching the egg, not by smashing it. Now, you might get some good omelets by smashing the egg, but you get the chicken by waiting for the egg to hatch. And so, yes, good things come to those who wait. In waiting as a way of life, this kind of patience is what we call long-suffering. Long-suffering. Now, long-suffering is patience through holding our temper. Patience through holding our temper. And holding our temper, I like to put it this way, holding our temper is resisting the temptation to act or respond in a hastily manner. So many times we are tempted to react in a certain way, especially if facing a situation that we feel is unfair, or somebody's attacking us, or something is happening unjustly to us, that we have a way of kind of raging out against people, or speaking before we think, or speaking out of anger, speaking out of frustration. And we have this thing that we just react. And sometimes our reactions can be a very negative reaction. And so holding our temper is resisting the temptation to react or respond in a hastily manner. And so that's the difference between being angry or being calm during everyday circumstances. When you're reading Galatians chapter 5 and the fruit of the Spirit, if you're reading the King James, it translates the word patience as long-suffering. The ability to have a long temper, not a short fuse. The ability to have a long temper, not to have a short fuse. And so Proverbs chapter 14, verse 29 says this, whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly. So there's a big difference between being patient and long-suffering and having a quick temper. And Proverbs says it's an act of maturity. That those who are growing and maturing in patience have great understanding. And those who don't are quick-tempered, short-fused. They don't practice long-suffering. So I want to give us 3 areas of life in which waiting as a way of life can be an issue. First of all is through waiting, not rushing. Waiting, not rushing. We live in a culture here, in our culture, in our society, that runs on impatience. You know, just think about getting food, for instance, and this just shows you how impatient as a society that we've become. Used to, it was nothing to go and sit in a restaurant and wait for them to prepare your food. And then we had this thing called fast food. And fast food is you don't even have to get out of your car to get your food. You can get in the line, you can order it, and then by the time you get to the window, here's a bag. And they hand you your food. That's what we called fast food. And that, probably was a sign of our impatience. We have a hurried society. We have to get here to there. We have deadlines to meet, so we have to rush. We have to be in a hurry, so we have to have things done quicker for us. But now, we don't even have to wait in a drive-through line to get fast food. We can order it on the app before we leave our house, and by the time we get to the restaurant, we can walk right in and it's already made for us, and all we have to do is just grab the bag. It's already there waiting. No more standing in lines, just walking in, grabbing it, and walking out. And it's a picture, nothing wrong with that. I do that a lot. It's easy, it's convenient. You don't have to, worry about, I can't hear you through the speaker and all this stuff. But it's a reflection of the impatience of our society. Now, we have so many things for our convenience to move quicker and faster, but yet is it helping us in the long run? Because it seems like that no matter how quickly we get things done, there's still way more we have to do. And many of our lives is characterized if we are just rushing from here to there, or we're not even enjoying the thing that we're at in order to get to the next thing. That's one of Michael's issues. I've always been by nature like a visionary. Like before I'm finished with one thing, I'm already to the next thing. It's like we haven't even gotten to this yet, and I'm already into the next stuff. We haven't even gotten to homecoming or trunk or treat yet, and I'm already thinking about the next thing that we're having to do. So I'm always forward thinking. And the problem with that can be, I have a hard, and it's that way in every other area of my life, but the problem is I have a hard time enjoying the moment because I'm always thinking about what's next. And I look back, and I know when growing up, and when Lisa and I had, our kids, all of the old people, I put that in quotes because I'm one now, all the old people would say, you're not going to understand how quickly life's going to fly by. Don't wish your life away. Don't rush your life away. And it's like, okay, you don't even think about it until you're there in that moment. And then you have kids, and then you can't wait for them to talk, and then you wish they couldn't, later on. You wish they'd be quiet again. You can't wait for them to walk, and then they're driving, and then they're off, and then, it's on to the next thing. We're so busy, and it's like, man, if you could only go back and just enjoy those moments of simplicity again, because we're so busy, we miss the simplicity because we're always addicted to next. What is next? And so talking about our pace of life is so important. And there are things that I'm experiencing now as I'm getting more mature in my life that I understand. I remember growing up with my grandparents, and there were some things staying with my grandparents that my grandparents did I didn't understand. Let me give you a couple. One of the things was I never understood why my grandparents went out to eat supper at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, bare minimum 6 is supper time. Why are we getting to, Shoney's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? I weirdly understand that now. Because who wants to deal with all the people that are there at 6 o'clock anyway? So let's go ahead. We can sit and enjoy with not a lot of people around us. I never understood why they wanted to go to bed at 9 o'clock either. I understand that now. I get it. I also didn't understand why they stayed, why Grandma and Granddad stayed in separate rooms many times. I understand that now too. I didn't understand why on Sunday afternoons we would get in the car and we'd drive 45 in a 65. And their cars would be flying by us, like not in a hurry at all. I kind of get that now. I was the guy that was speeding past everybody, and I find myself these days saying, man, why are y'all up on me? Why are y'all passing me so quick? Just chill out. I get some of those things now, and maybe that just comes with age, or maybe that comes with perspective of life, that you've lived life to this point and it's flown by, and you want to slow down a little bit so you can breathe and enjoy it. So waiting, not rushing. And then we have waiting, not complaining as a way of life. Waiting, not complaining. Because waiting and complaining kind of go hand in hand, in our experiences. You're standing in the grocery store line, and it's taking forever, and people's got to go back. Oh, I didn't have a tag on this, and I got to go back and find one with a tag on. Oh, can you get a manager? Oh, now the receipt thing won't work, and we got to go find some paper and put in. What do we start to do? We start to complain about everything. Waiting and complaining in our human experience kind of go hand in hand. But what the Bible is telling us to do is that waiting is not just about the act of waiting, it's about the attitude of waiting. How we wait is just as important as why we wait. So what is our attitude? We look at the children of Israel when they came out of Egyptian bondage and they got into the wilderness. What did they do? They kept constantly complaining and complaining and complaining. Listen, complaining is not going to make you wait any shorter. Have you ever thought about that? It's just going to make you more miserable while you're waiting. And so the attitude of waiting is very important in our life. And then the third area of life, as a way of life, is waiting, not berating. Waiting, not berating. When things don't go our way or we have to wait, it's easy to lash out at others. It's easy to lose our patience. It's easy not to hold our tongue, but just to say the first thing that pops into our mind, which is not a good habit, by the way. And so waiting, not berating, really has to do with our temper with other people and not losing it. And even deeper than just in the moment, this kind of patience has to do with long suffering with people. And it has to do with, even if somebody is coming against you not being quick to seek revenge. You're not wanting to repay evil with evil. Or your heart and your attitude is not, God, I want you to get them. God, I want you to get them. Because that's kind of the attitude that a lot of Christians can have. But let me tell you, I'm thankful that God is not a God that loses his patience very easily. God is a God of long suffering. And I'm thankful that God is a God of long suffering. Because something in us, we want everybody else to get what's coming to them, get what they deserve. But yet, we want God to show us patience. So we often say things like, well, I don't understand why, God's letting people get away with stuff. Or I don't understand why, God needs to judge, people. God needs to do this. God needs to do that. Well, here's the reason that he doesn't. Because he's long suffering. He's patient with people. Numbers chapter 14, verse 18 tells us, the Lord is long suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression. 2 Peter 3:9, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but he is long suffering to us. He's long suffering to us, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. We see a desire for revenge. We want justice and want it now, but the practice of patience directs us to go the other way as far as it concerns waiting, not berating. So waiting as a way of life shows us patience as long suffering. Here's the second kind of patience. Number 2, the flavor of patience is waiting through trials. This is patience through endurance. This is patience through not quitting. This is patience through not giving up. It's a patience that perseveres through the trials that you're facing. One of the words in the original language is bearing up under a burden. And it shows endurance going through hardship. So endurance, waiting through the hard stuff. Trials will come. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But patience keeps us grounded. Endurance keeps us grounded in the midst of the trials. Because it's easy to be patient and keep going when things are good. But the easiest thing to do is quit. And I see that in the society that we live in today. The easiest thing to do is quit. Quit. Things get tough, we quit. Things get tough at work, quit. You have a work and somebody will take a job and they'll stay a week and they'll quit. They'll stay 2 weeks and they'll quit. The easiest thing to do in relationships is just to quit, not persevere through. Listen, every one of us in here that's in a relationship or in a marriage for any length of time, we've had plenty of opportunities to quit. We've had plenty of opportunities to walk away. But endurance is the key. Endurance is the key to seeing through the trials, seeing through the hard stuff. You even see it, we see it in sports. It's football season, we can talk about it. You see it with kids in college and sports and transfer and portals and NILs. You don't like how something's going, you quit. There was a guy at a college this week that he wanted more money, so he quit on an undefeated team. The easiest thing to do is quit. But patience teaches us to persevere. Patience teaches us to go through the fire, trusting God. So James chapter 1 tells us this: my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. The testing of your faith produces endurance. But let patience have its perfect work, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So he tells us that patience will work for us. It will form in us something greater on the inside of us. And Romans chapter 5 echoes the same thing. He says, not only so, but we glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. It's the same word. And perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. These verses tell us that patience isn't just about getting through the trial, it's about growing through the trial. Because not everything in your life is God sent, but everything can be God used. God can use even the worst things that happen, and we don't see it in the moment. You may not see it until you look back years later and say, I can see what God was orchestrating. I can see that the things that happen in my life, God worked them out for something I could never see in the moment. So in our trials, don't focus on escaping. Focus on what God is shaping in you. And the pain we feel today will produce the endurance for tomorrow and what we're going to need. So that's the second kind of patience that the Bible teaches us. Waiting through trials. Patience that is endurance. And here's a third flavor of patience. The third flavor of patience today is waiting on the Lord. And this can be a tough one, because there's things that we're praying for. There's things that we're believing for. There's things that we're dreaming about. There's things that we want to do. And we're waiting on God to do something. We're waiting on God to move. And sometimes that's difficult when you've prayed and you've prayed and you've prayed and you wait and you wait and you wait. This kind of patience is expectancy. It's waiting in faith. Again, it's the attitude, it's what we're doing while we are waiting. While we're praying, while we're believing, while we're trusting, while we're looking for God to move, and while we're looking for an open door in our life. How can we wait on the Lord well? Here's some ways that we can wait on the Lord and wait on the Lord well. And when I say wait on the Lord, I'm not talking about like you're waiting in a waiting room and you're just sitting down doing nothing, twiddling your thumbs, or just mindlessly scrolling through your phone. When you're waiting on the Lord, here's what I'm talking about. The first thing I'm talking about is active trust. Active trust. That you are actively trusting God for whatever He has for you. That we're not telling God what to do, but we're trusting Him for whatever's happening in our life. We trust Him in the waiting. We're active trust. So it's not inactivity, it's active trust. It's also not inactivity, it's intentional rest. Here's what waiting on the Lord is not. Waiting on the Lord is not waiting anxiously. Well, God, I don't know if you're going to come through. Well, God, I don't know if this is going to happen. Well, God, I don't know if you're hearing my prayers. And how's this going to happen? I don't know. And we're so anxious about how things are going to work out. Our job is to trust. His job is to work it out. It's not for us to know the how. It's up for us just to believe. It's not us forcing, God, here's what you have to do in my life. God, here's the timetable you need to do it in. And here's the way it needs to look. That's kind of what we do. We tell God what we want, and then we're waiting for it to happen. But sometimes God will work things in our life in a totally different way than we imagine. And sometimes we're waiting, and we're not experiencing what we want, the way we want it, when we want it, because God has something better in store for us. There's been things I've waited for, and I've told God, this is what I want. This is how I want it. And you know what? When I got it, it was not what the Lord wanted. And He made that abundantly clear. He let me experience that to show me I just need to trust Him, because His will is greater than my wants in life. And when I submit to His will, what He has for me is so much greater than what I could desire in and of my own self. So it's active trust. It's not inactivity. It's intentional rest. It's intentionally sitting and resting, being at peace, knowing that God is working it out. It's not being anxious. It's being at rest. And then the third way of waiting on the Lord is not inactivity. It's knowing that He's working behind the scenes. While you may not see actively what God is doing out here, you don't know what God is doing back here. You don't know what God is setting up. You don't know how God is working and putting pieces together in our lives. It's kind of like when you're putting on a performance. Many of you parents, your kids were in performances growing up, whether it's performances in church or performances in school. And let's say you're doing a spring concert for your kids in May, an end of the year spring concert at school. Well, how many of you know for a 1-hour program in May, they start working way back in January, assigning parts, memorizing lines, learning songs, doing walkthroughs, building sets, putting together costumes. It takes months of work for a 1-hour performance. It takes months of work. And we want to get right to the thing that we're believing for, without realizing that God could have been working a long time behind the scenes to bring us to the right time for God to move in our lives. And if we are impatient, here's what we will do. When we are impatient, we will try to do what only God should be doing in our lives, and we'll end up messing it up. But sometimes God is working for months and even years in your life to prepare you for the right time, for the right thing that He has for you. So don't give up hope. Don't give up expectancy. Don't wait impatiently, because what God is working out is going to be so much better than what we could ever do. So we see Psalm 27. Here's what Psalm 27 says. Wait for the Lord. Again, not inactively twiddling our thumbs, but wait on the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. You know why it says let your heart take courage? Because your head will try to talk you out of it. Your head will try to talk you out of what your heart is believing God for. It says, so take courage, wait for the Lord. And then many of us are familiar with Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who wait on the Lord, again, not inactively wondering what's going to happen, but actively waiting on the Lord. Active trust, intentional rest, knowing God's working behind the scenes. They shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So when you wait on the Lord, you're saying, God, I trust you more than my own timetable. I trust your ways better than my ways. And so we wait with expectancy. We wait with faith. We wait with hope. We wait with prayer. We wait with praise. We wait with promise. We wait with assurance. Assurance knowing that God loves us, that God is for us, that God is working, that everything He's doing is for our good. So I want you to see that patience covers a lot. Patience covers our everyday life with long suffering, whether it's waiting in a line, whether it's dealing with people that maybe aren't being fair with you or talking about you or coming against you. It's the ability to be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. We can wait with endurance. We can wait with endurance that what you're going through, this too shall pass. And God's going to work in you something greater than what you're seeing is working against you. And then number 3, we can wait with expectancy. Don't lose heart. Don't lose hope. Wait on the Lord. May we stand.